is amazing the difference in the beans. The forage beans on the merino plot, still full of pods, hundreds of deer in there. And then this is my commercial ag beans. There's not a pod left.
Roll back.
Well, welcome back to the show, guys. We are super excited to get the 2025 off-season series up and running. Before we jump into the show, I want to let you guys know March 7th through the 9th, the Iowa Deer Classic is going to be happening in Des Moines, Iowa. We're going to be in booth 223. We're going to have some of the bucks from last year on display. We've got new apparel, so hope you guys come and check it out. On this week's show, we're going to be joining Owen Reigler as he takes us through his timber stand improvement project. He's got an EQIP contract with the NRCS, and you know, Owen is a wealth of knowledge on land management, tree identification, timber stand tactics, all in an effort to increase the value of the timber, but also, of course, increase the wildlife habitat, hold more deer, and just have better hunting in general. So I'm really excited to bring you guys Owen's show today. A lot of the team members have some really great projects happening this off-season. There's going to be a couple big updates throughout the off-season, new land acquisitions, and just really cool modifications to currently owned properties, how we're making it better, how the guys are working different approaches. And I think there's going to be a lot of great information in this off-season series. As for myself, I also have been working with the NRCS to set up these EQIP programs and timber stand improvement. I've been out walking the properties with the foresters, and that's really where it all starts. You got to come up with a plan. You get a one-on-one consultation. They walk the timber with you and come up, they talk about what your goals are, but then they write up a good forestry plan for you. You know, that funding, for those of you who have followed along, you know, federal funding was frozen at the beginning of February. And the EQIP programs, you know, that's the flagship conservation program for the NRCS, and it's really great for farmers and ranchers and anyone that owns timber. There's just a lot of great cost share available for guys to get that work done. Of course, the funding was frozen beginning of February, and so right now they're kind of in a standstill, not taking new contracts. I wanted to just kind of make sure you guys were aware of that. We talk a lot about the EQIP on the show. They did just 2 days ago on Friday, February 21st, release about $20 million in funding to honor the prior contracts. You know, when you sign these contracts, they're 3 years or 5 years or whatever they are, it's grant money. So it's dependent on funding each and every year. And so right now, some funding got released to honor the prior contracts. I am under the impression, I think that, of course, funding is going to come available again at some point. My decision to do the work is not really based on funding. I mean, I want a well-written plan. I want to work with the NRCS, and I plan on doing all this work irregardless. So having the forester come and help me along, making sure that I'm doing the right things is something to be really mindful of. As far as funding is concerned, there are some state-level funding programs, and you know, you guys, the best place to start is with your local office, right? Every state's a little bit different. I would just get into the office, talk with the NRCS, and come up with a plan, funding or not. They can keep you appraised of when funding is available and also on what programs are available outside of the federal funding. That's where it's got to start. And for those of you who are unsure on how to do some of the work yourself, the NRCS has a list of approved contractors for hire that you could hire to do the work. And that's really what the cost share is designed for, is that someone can come in, talk with NRCS, come up with a plan, and then have the money cost share to hire someone to come and do it. You know, a lot of us like to do the work ourselves, but there is a system in place for guys that either don't have the time or aren't able to. So if you guys follow along on socials, you saw I found a big match set. Unbelievable. It is February 1st, and I'm out here getting ready, getting prepared for some TSI projects, and I have just stumbled upon match set of the main buck I was hoping to find on this property. He broke off the end of his beam and his G3 and his G5 on the right side early October this year, so I decided I wasn't gonna hunt him. And so anyway, we filmed him a couple of times.
by the standing corn. Heavy buck. I see him now. Coming down the hill. Yeah, that's Junior.
Just wanted to show you guys these. We're gonna have these on display at the Iowa Deer Classic, but buck I'm very familiar with. 3 years of history with him. Last year, 17 scoreable points. He busted off the end of the beam in the G5, and he busted off this inside point. And just what a stud buck. I mean, this deer not broken would have been high 80s, low 90s with these 17 scoreables. He's got 28-inch beams, lots of points, obviously, great mass. And he's gonna be one of my main targets for 2025. So really excited to start the story on him and start putting a plan together to try to catch up with this deer. Before we jump into the show, another thing to be thinking about right now is frost seeding. We've got a number of freeze thaw cycles left, obviously, and it's a great time of year to get out. I like to do it when the snow melts, ground's a little soft on the top layer, seed sticks, and that freeze thaw works them in. Monster Buck's got 2 great Clover blends, off-season and multi-year. We'll put the code on the screen for a discount. If you guys have any suggestions for off-season topics or questions, just leave us a comment, and let's jump over to Owen and see what he's got going with his timber stand improvement.
Well guys, it seems like anytime we have a big deer comes out of some TSI that we did and we get him killed, it always comes up, the subject always comes up, okay, it's TSI he came out of, but what does that mean and what exactly did you do? So, you know, today we're going to dive into exactly what that is, some different scenarios and exactly what I would do. This is a property I actually just put up for sale. There's about, well, this is about 35, 40 acres of timber right here, and I've got this all in the EQIP project. So we've got a lot of different things we're going to do, and we're going to jump into that today. So this area right here in particular is mainly mid-story management, not so much on the overstory. So mid-story management is going to be all the stuff, you know, from say 6-8 feet up to maybe 18-20 feet, stuff like that. So let's dive in. Here's one I marked to cut right here. We're marking some more today, but let's go look at this guy right here. So here's a hickory, and this one I marked to kill. Again, this is mid-story. You can see how bad it's overtopped by these other trees. It's never going to amount to anything because it's overtopped. And so you might as well just go ahead and take him out. That lets these other larger trees flourish. You know, right here some basswood, which the thing I love about basswood, there's always multiple trunks. And when you see some of these smaller trunks on basswood, there's always rubs that are just tore to pieces. I'm sure there's some in here, I'll show you. There's one right there. Your shagbark hickory. That's one you definitely need to be able to identify. And there's how it gets its name. If you look at the bark, shagbark hickory, with a bark that flakes off like that. That's going to be a dominant tree in most all your hardwoods in Iowa. So the first thing we're going to do in this timber is our brush management. We've basically got 2 things that we've got to control, and we're going to do basal bark spraying to kill them. You want to do that first because once you come in here and drop trees, this stuff's hard to get to. This is one we've got to get after right here is multiflora rose, and you can tell by the kind of the dark red and then the hooked thorns on them. You can see multiflora rose. If you don't know what that is, just walk through the timber with a short sleeve shirt on and you'll come out with a better understanding of multiflora rose. This stuff is nasty. So that's why you want to get this invasive stuff. And then autumn olive's another one we're going to kill, which I kind of like autumn olive from a cover standpoint. It does provide good cover, but that's about it for wildlife. And it's invasive. It wants to take over the whole area. So we'll knock that back as well, kill the autumn olive, and those 2 species are about all that's in here that we really don't want. So that's first, then cut your tree second. Here's an elm. That's a good tree for wildlife as far as sprouting back. They do love to browse elm, so I would flush cut a tree like this. Just cut it down as low as you can and let it sprout back. Anything, say under 8 inches, just flush cut it without a felling notch is just fine. You know, the idea, the reason we're freeing up this mid-story is we want more light to get in here. We get a flush of vegetation, get our buckbrush up higher, and just get more food in general. Plus the trees we flush cut, that's all gonna grow up, you know, thick and nasty and be more food for the deer and more cover. So we're gonna go from understory management, or mid-story management I should say, which is what all this is. We're taking out your, you know, maybe 4-inch trees up to 6-inch trees, stuff like that. Now we're gonna work into a TSI crop tree release. So now the state started calling this FSI, which is forest stand improvement. We've always called it TSI, timber stand improvement, same term, so they're interchangeable, just so there's no confusion on that. But let's get into some of this crop tree release and I'll show you how we would do that. So this guy right here, because of this bur oak, I'm gonna kill this pretty old little oak right here. He's gonna go because I've got another one equal, just as good, right behind him. So we'll save that guy, kill this guy, so that frees up the bur and it frees up this other oak right here. So that's crop tree release. We're releasing this guy right here. We're also releasing that bur right there. So we're gonna mark these to save. All right, let's jump into some more of these. What we got here, guys, another bitter nut. So you're going to take out your hickory. This is all oak in here, not all oak, I mean, but primarily oak. So you wouldn't select probably any hickory in this. If you had to select one that wasn't a white oak, you'd pick a red and get rid of your hickory. So you're always going in the order of importance: walnut, then your oaks, start out with your whites, and then go to your reds, and then if there's none of those, then you select the hickory. You know, there's some places you have to select what's there as your crop tree. Maybe it's a hackberry, but select what's there, but it's always going to be your walnut and oak first. Aha! And I've still got to mark some of these too. So, perfect example right here. Here's a bur oak. It's got a little competition. That cottonwood we were just looking at right there, I would want to release this bur oak right here. Beautiful tree. The way you tell that a bur oak is this kind of scaly bark, ridge bark like this, goes all the way down the limbs. If you can't see the leaf, that'll be the giveaway on a bur oak. It's that scaly bark that goes all the way down the limbs. So this is a tree I would want to release right here. So we'd mark this guy. Maybe if I can get this thing to work properly. Okay, so we'd mark him to save. This guy's gonna go. So we're releasing this tree. That guy's out. This cottonwood's out that's touching. This guy's competition right here. I'm marking these to kill just because whoever's doing this, it might not be me chainsawing. I would know what to cut, but you know, if it's Devin or somebody else, this helps them know what to cut. So the horizontal band is always going to be your save tree. If it's a bigger tree, I'll put an X. If it's a little tree, sometimes I'll just put a vertical mark on it. That means it's a tree you take out. So there's more mid-story stuff right here, some of these smaller trees. And then this guy right here we're going to kill too. So we're not going to drop this tree because it's a little dangerous. It's a bigger tree. Let's talk about that real quick. If you get trees this size that you're wanting to kill, I want my guys to put a felling notch in anything this big. Say 8 inches or bigger. Let's put a felling notch in it. So you're going to put your notch in whatever way you know it's leaning. You always never want to fight tree lean, so whatever way it's leaning is the way you want to drop it. Put your felling notch in and then come back and cut it. Now if it's a severely leaning tree, it needs to have a little different plan of attack on that. So they're going to want a barber chair on you, so it needs to be cut a little differently. So keep that in mind. But so we would just, on this one, I would just double girdle this cottonwood. You just have to get into the cambium layer. So if you're an inch in, you know, just past the bark, you'll be just fine. Girdle all the way around the tree, and then 4 inches apart, you'll put a second girdle. So these kind of trees, you'll double girdle, and that's just fine with the state forester. On cedars, single girdle's just fine, and the forester doesn't mind that. So you also have to make sure you're doing this the way the forester wants it. If you're in EQIP or REAP, some of these that pay you to do this stuff, so it's got to be done to their specs. So how you figure your spacing on this, how far to select your crop trees, is diameter times 2 is what they want me to do in this area. Sometimes it's diameter times 1.5. So your average diameter you're working with, say that's a 6-inch tree, so you're going to go about every 9 or 10 feet, you're going to select another one if that's the size you're working in. If they're smaller, they can be closer together. Bigger, of course, is farther. Get rid of that shingle right there. That'll release this burr. All right, look at what we got here. We've got more burr. We've got a good one right there, a dominant tree. So you got to save that guy and free him up. He's looking to explode, and he should be producing acorns pretty soon if he's not already. So we got to save that guy, and you got another burr right here that we can free up. Now he's kind of competing with the other burr, but it seems how they're both burr oak. Let's keep them both at this time. Like I said, that's like gold when you find white oak species in your Iowa forest. So all these guys got to go. He's out. He's out. 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 See, even that guy over there, he's competing with your burr as well. See how close the canopies are? They're touching. So he's got to go also. So great examples of crop tree release in here. Get in. These trees really need freed up. They're going to have all kinds of growth and vigor now that you get them freed up. So that's half of it. The other half is we want the food. So the other great part of cutting these, like we've talked about, flush cut them as low as you can, let them sprout back, and all those sprouts are right where a deer can get at them. So it's a largely overlooked side of the food equation when it comes to deer. So we provide a lot of it, maybe half of it out there in food, you know, different food plots, grasses, fields, whatever. But the other half of their diet comes from browse primarily. We forget about that a lot. Well, we got our TSI project wrapped up. Let's go take a look at some of the stuff we did, the crop tree release, the felling notch, double girdling, all that kind of stuff. Let's go check out kind of what we've got here. Check this out. The deer been beating this down already. Check this out right here. Here's a, looks like a bitternut hickory, just a little sapling. You see where they've been nipping the ends of that. Another one right here. They've nipped this one off right here as well. And if you go through this, you'll see they've been doing that all through all this stuff we dropped. Perfect example of a crop tree release right here. You've got this little bur oak. He had way too much competition. You see the stuff we dropped here, these cedars were right up against. Now if you can release all 4 sides, it really lets them explode and grow with vigor versus, you know, releasing 2 sides or even 3. 4 is ideal. So this burr is going to take off. There's a red oak right here that we didn't cut, so we've just released him on 3 sides. There's a lot of oak through here that are going to be, you know, in the next 10 years, those will start producing acorns, so they'll really take off. You know, I knew this farm was going to be for sale when I was doing this TSI work, but I learned a long time ago, never stop working on these farms, even if you're going to put them up for sale. Maybe it doesn't sell and you fixed it up for yourself. Even if it does sell, you fixed it up for the next guy. You know, 200-inch deer comes crawling out of that TSI that we worked on, and the new owner gets a crack at a deer like that and say he gets him, I'm going to feel like a part of that, you know, because I helped fix that farm up. So that's the cool thing about leaving the farm better for the next guy, is you feel like a part of their hunting after that too. So always try to do that as well. And you know, every time one of my farms departs, The cool thing is there's an arrival of another farm, and it's no different with this one. We've got another farm under contract, and I'm super excited to put my fingerprint on this farm, do what I do to them, you know, try to create everything we do on, you know, like my home farm. I've done so much work here creating funnels, and of course love food sources and enhanced bedding and all that, and I'm looking forward to do that on this next farm. So you guys stay tuned to that. We'll have some of that coming up here in the off season. And as always, thanks again for joining us, and we'll see you guys on the next one.